In this quick tutorial, I'll be showing you how to use the open source library for jQuery and Galleria to create really highly advanced um, JavaScript interactions with minimal coding knowledge. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is the structure. This is my folder, and these are the images that I'm going to be using. This is how I've named them. I've downloaded the Galleria's open source files from the Galleria website. Um, you need to put this particular folder inside your root folder. You download it and you simply place it inside your root folder. You don't need to rename it or move anything. Actually, you should not move anything from this folder or rename anything, at least for the beginning. Inside the Galleria, basically we have a theme, classic theme, and all this we have like some JavaScript and some cascading style sheets, as well as jQuery library, all within this folder. So basically all we need to do is to place the folder in our root, and I have my Photoshop file that I'm using. I put it in my source file, and I've gone ahead and made an HTML index file from that page. I'm going to open this up. Oops. I'm going to open the page up, and from here I'm actually going to make it smaller. So from here, make it 80% so we can see better. I would need to convert this structure into div tags in order for the open source jQuery and JavaScript library to work properly. So from the options that I have, I'm going to select anywhere on the page, and from these tags I'm going to choose table. So it's going to select the entire table for me. I'm going to choose modify, convert table to AP divs, and I'll get this menu bar, and I'm going to say yes, just make sure it's all checked. Now I'm going to have everything is converted, and I see these little blue boxes on top left hand side, and if I click on the code, you can kind of see that it's all reflective of AP div. I'm going to go back here, and basically now what I need to do is to insert a container div, so that it would basically, the container div is going to contain every single thing that I have on my page. It's almost like a suitcase. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to choose insert layout object, and I'm going to choose div tag, and this process is always going to be the same. From this menu, I'm going to click on my insert, and I'm going to choose after tag, and I'm going to choose the very last tag that is listed here. So I'm going to say just give me another div and put it all the way at the bottom. Also, I need to make this container to be interactive, so which means that I have to code. I'm going to be adding some codes here that's going to reference the container div tag, which means that I have to give it a name. Without the name, it wouldn't know that I'm trying to make it do something. So whenever we want to add interactivity, we always basically add an ID to whatever element that we want to add the interactivity to. So I'm going to choose the ID, and I'm going to call it container. I'm going to create a new CSS style. This is very important. So this is already set to ID. I'm going to create a style, and I'm going to choose, there's some settings that always needs to be selected. So under box, we want to make sure the width and the height is the same as my Photoshop file. So it's 800 by 500. Also going to make sure my margins, it's set to auto from left and auto from right. I'm also going to click on my position and change the position from absolute to relative. This ensures that regardless of how the browser page resizes, the page stays centered to that space. So I'm going to go ahead and say apply. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and I'm going to click on my code. And if I go up here, you can see this is my container. And usually you see a hash mark. That means that this is an ID. It's 500 by 800. It's an auto, and the position is relative. And if I come all the way at the bottom, this is my container div. Now, I'm going to need to copy this information from gray to gray and include the very last div. So I'm going to highlight it, Command exit, cut it, and go here and paste it in this area. So now, basically what I'm saying is that every single element on this page is going to be inside this container that I've called div. I'm also going to move this last div down, and I'm going to make a little comment on it, because remember, every single thing on my page has to be above this last div. That's my container div closing tag. So basically, I'm going to move it down, put the bubble, click it, and just say closing tag. I'm going to click on my design, and I'm going to preview it to make sure it's running okay, because sometimes Dreamweaver is a buggy program, and sometimes it doesn't respond, and this is working just fine. Everything's moving, and everything looks great. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up the open sample code page that I've created, or that we have. And again, the most important thing is that you need to make sure this Galleria folder with all of its contents, as you download it from this open source website, or because I have it on my web page too, you can just make sure it's just sitting on your page. And also make sure the names of your images are either the same as mine, or change it to reflect the code, that whatever is in the open source code. So this is basically what it's going to look like in a second. And remember, I don't have thumbnails. I don't have different stages for my navigation. I just have the large images. However, this advanced interactivity is only possible with using these scripts. So I'm going to open up my open source HTML, and I'm going to go to the code. And there are two sets of code I need to copy into my document. One is, there are two sets of script. One is referencing a job, is an external script, and it references a JavaScript library, jQuery library. Another one is the folder that I have in my folder. So I'm going to copy these two sets of lines, come back to index, back to code, and I'm going to paste. Again, as I look here, these scripts are inside the head tag. So I'm going to go to my page, and I'm going to go to my head tag, and I'm going to simply paste that in here. I'm going to save the file, come back to my sample code, and further down the page, there is another set from basically line 28. I need to copy this information all the way to the script and the closing div. So this is the closing div for the gallery. So there's a new div that's going to contain my images. And again, remember, if your images are going to be named differently, just make sure you change it here. You can just simply highlight and change the name, and make sure you don't delete anything else by mistake. So I'm going to highlight the whole thing, come back to index. Now I'm going to click my split code here. I want to place everything in this space. I don't want this top part to get affected. So if I highlight this image here, placeholder, basically you can see the whole thing gets highlighted for me. So I can simply highlight this and just paste the code in there. And now I'm going to get something like this. And then if I preview this, you can see that I just created a very nice photo gallery with animated buttons without even having to slice or resize these smaller images. And this is basically how you can create an interactive gallery with open source files, just simply using copying and pasting without actually having to know JavaScript or advanced programming.